Good morning. Hello, this is Josh. I want to start a kind of a new little side sub-series of movie discussions today, and I want to talk about catching up on some items that have been in my collection for a long time. So as a collector of things, collectibles, games, and of course physical media, movies, I have accrued lots of, collections and sub-collections and stacks of things. I've purged some of them as I get older, and I've kept some of them, put some away in boxes, keep some out proudly. And one of the things that I have accrued a great deal of over the years are Criterion collection movies. I've been doing it so long that I have DVDs. I have a whole stack of DVDs way back, early Criterion. I know it goes back as far as Laserdisc. I don't have any of those, but I have a good number of movies on DVD from Criterion, and then there's a select few. I've continued to collect over time. There's a select few titles that I have the DVD and the Blu-ray, and a couple where I have upgraded them to 4K more recently. I don't buy as much physical media lately for many reasons that I won't get into, but I do have this collection. And when I'm doing something silly, like playing my Switch or listening to a podcast or streaming some weird movie to catch up on the current cinema so that I can talk to you all, my Criterion shelf is always right there, staring at me, glaring at me, mocking me, because even though the Criterion collection is awesome and I'm excited about all these things, and I always enjoy it when I watch one, there's a degree to which it feels like homework. It feels like an important thing to do. And so yes, I will do that. I'm going to make a point to do that. Hi, this lady jogging by just stopped and craned her neck to stare into my eyes. It's quite a moment. So I thought, you know what? Now that I have this outlet and I have this excuse, and I have a place to talk about the stuff that I watch, I am going to occasionally, as time permits, in between other things, I'm going to catch up on these Criterion titles that I've never seen. And so to kick it off, it just was kind of all in a moment. I was just like, yes, that's it. Fairly recently, Criterion released Bound, the Wachowskis. I believe it's their debut feature. And this is a movie that I have never caught up on. It's a blind spot. And in my mind, a couple of things. I knew that it's highly regarded. I knew people like Bound, pre-Matrix Wachowskis. And but in my mind, I always conflated it with Buffalo 66, and I have no opinion about that either. I just thought they were the same movie. And for some reason in my mind, I thought that Bound would be kind of this rough, maybe kind of like experimental, like stepping stool to, a film career. I kind of in my mind thought of it like Blood Simple. But Blood Simple is a masterpiece, so if that's what I thought, why didn't I watch it sooner? But Blood Simple is a masterpiece, but it's a simplistic masterpiece made within limitations. The Coens would go on. By the time Bound comes out, the Coens are making Hudsucker Proxy and things where they're like taking cinematography to the next level. Blood Simple is shot brilliantly, but it just has that 80s low budget noir kind of feel. And that's what's magic about it. I just kind of assumed Bound would be that, but Bound is, a full decade later. And I guess, not to bury the lead, I'll talk about the movie, but the big thing that surprised me about Bound was that what a fully formed cinematic kind of vision and voice the Wachowskis had already, and how much Matrix DNA there is. This is not a science fiction story or supernatural story. It's a very grounded story, but just the way the camera looks, how slick everything is, the nice graphical title that looks to be shot with miniatures or something. There's macro photography, and there's just lots of things that would become kind of the hallmarks of their filmmaking, with tracking shots down hallways with authority figures, coming towards you, or tableaus shot from above in bathrooms, nasty bathrooms where violent things are happening. Things that would become kind of the bread and butter of the Matrix are already here fully formed. I was just kind of blown away by how awesome this movie looks. I did see it in 4K and it's been restored, but I just, it's amazing what an independent movie could look like in the late 90s. So this is after the Coen brothers are already cooking. Pulp Fiction has already kind of had made its influence. And The Matrix, which will be made by these filmmakers, has not yet come to change things again. For that 5-ish years in between Pulp Fiction and The Matrix, everything was trying to be Pulp Fiction. Everything was a Pulp Fiction. Everybody was taking the wrong lessons and trying to reverse engineer another Pulp Fiction, but that would all change when The Matrix came out. Meanwhile, in the middle here is Bound. So I knew that Bound was a same-sex erotic thriller crime story, but I don't know what I was expecting. It's very much a straightforward crime story. It just happens to be about two women. Those two women happen to be Gina Gershon and Jennifer Tilly at peak something. This is a Gina Gershon that we don't see much. I feel like she was very quickly moved into the kind of maternal, grizzled kind of older character, whereas here she's an ingenue. She's kind of a butch fix-it lady, and she and Jennifer Tilly, in different capacities, both work for people who turn out to be gangsters. And we're talking like urban Italian movie gangsters. Joe Pantoliano is the one that they personally deal with the most, and he becomes the major antagonist in the movie. And I would say that this movie is daring for its time in like the first act, where these two women meet and they kind of begin this secret relationship, and it feels like this is just, and again, in a way that would become trademark Wachowski, they just kind of, the eroticism is just straightforward. There's not much dancing around it. It just goes for it. And it's kind of like, wow, okay. But then as the story goes on, that's really the first act. It really does, I don't want to say devolve, because it stays pretty excellent all the way through, but it just kind of comfortably settles into being a more traditional crime story of people who you root for. They may not be virtuous, but by relative to the other characters in the story, they are sympathetic, and you care about them, and you want them to succeed. And it has to do with, getting away with something under the nose of some very deadly gangsters. And that's the movie. And boy, it's inventive. It is full of suspense. It's so well made. I shouldn't be surprised, but I, for some reason, was. Bound is a great debut where you can see, the author's voices already intact. And the Criterion release, of course, is pristine and gives context. I haven't watched any of the extras or anything like that, but I will do so. I always like to just, of course, watch the movie first. So very glad that I picked this to kind of kick off this little experience. And I don't know, have you seen Bound? I feel like it's a blind spot for a lot of people. And it's a shame, because this is excellent, and I'm glad I caught up with it. I also wish that I had seen it in its original context and kind of had it in my Rolodex, because it probably would have colored the way I see certain other movies. The one I can think of most recently is Love Lies Bleeding from earlier this year, which has a little bit of magical realism, and the gangsters in it are like, white cracker gangsters. But it's the same type of a thing, of an illicit kind of secret relationship between sympathetic women under the nose of some very toxic and dangerous men, and they have to, get away with something or not, as it may be. So that's it. I recommend it. I will see what I pick next. That's the thing about Criterion, is it's a real grab bag. You don't know what you're going to get. I've bought some things just based on reputation, title, cover art. There's some things where I'm like, well, all right, Scorsese's Age of Innocence, I can't believe that's another blind spot, so that's in the stack. Eventually I'll watch that, but I think I'm going to pick things intentionally that I just have no context for, because it's always worth it, right? Like I don't think I've ever watched a Criterion disc, even of the weirdest art movie or foreign film, and been like, oh, I wish I didn't watch that. It's always at least a fascinating journey, and you see some great movies. For example, I have the DVD of Armageddon, the Criterion Collection DVD of Armageddon, which has a notorious audio commentary where a perhaps drunk Ben Affleck is just needling Michael Bay, and it's glorious. It's really good. There's clips of it everywhere. You've probably seen it on social media, but I owned that disc back when it came out. I don't know why. I think just as an absurd object, I had to have it. Okay, that's it. Josh out. Bye.